Well, good morning to our viewers once again. I'm coming to you live from Freedom Park, the amphitheatre, as we draw closer to the momentous arrival of those mortal remains of our liberation heroes that will be arriving here at this all-important site as we celebrate Heritage Month, or rather draw a close to this Heritage Month. It's a very important celebration under the theme of celebrating the heroes and heroines that paid a hefty cost for the freedom that South Africans enjoy today. To elaborate further on these Heritage Month celebrations, I am joined by the DDG at the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Mr. Ndima, this morning ahead of this important ceremony. I think where we can start is the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture's Heritage Month program and why this was an important feature to include as we draw a close to Heritage Month.
This was a very important theme to choose because when we understood that the president was going to be available for the homecoming ceremony, where we are receiving back the remains of our fallen heroes and heroines, we thought it prudent that we give it the name celebrating the lives of our heroes and heroines who laid their lives for our freedom. This is a very important moment in the history of South Africa. Yes, there has been repatriations in a very ad hoc manner. But for the first time, we have got these massive repatriations taking place in our country. And the reason being, we want to implement the preamble of the Constitution that enjoins us to recognize the injustices of the past, but also to recognize those who suffered those injustices, who paid with their lives for our freedom, and also to heal the wounds of the past and the divisions of the past. I'm saying this because there has been cries by families who have been saying, but when are our loved ones going to come back and be buried in the South African soil? Now this is the moment. The moment has come where we have gone to Zambia and Zimbabwe. Remember that this was triggered also by the announcement of our president in 2020, where the idea was to bring back the remains of Duma Nogwe, Florence Mposho, Basil February. There was then COVID, remember, and everything got disrupted. And as it got disrupted, we then started looking at the policy. Policy was adopted in 21, and then in 2023, we then presented to Cabinet. Now, the implementation model, which is more inclusive, which is more cost-effective. This is the country-to-country model. Hence, we have started in Zambia and Zimbabwe. It is the beginning. It's not an end.
Speaking on that, I think what was missing from the conversation and what some may be wondering, and you've just started elaborating on this issue, is you've started in Zambia and Zimbabwe, but of course we know that the liberation heroes were in other frontline countries as well, and we're wondering where we'll see the remains, the mortal remains that are still in Angola, for example, when we will see those return in challenging areas such as that, when we will see those liberation heroes return to South Africa.
Immediately after this project, we just have to look at the lessons learned out of this first repatriation process. And of course, a lot of research is required because even the work that you see today, it arises out of a very good research that was done by the Missing Persons Task Team, which is an outfit located within the NPA. They started doing research, of course, working with our South African Heritage Resources Agency, going to these countries, working with families, identifying graves, mapping graves, and doing all sorts of research, mapping graves, also looking at the cemetery records in all these countries so that they know exactly where these graves are located. So that's the kind of work that goes into this. And that's what we're going to be doing now, maybe for Tanzania, for Angola, and any other country, research first.
From your standpoint, is it a possible task in those countries? Because we know we've been hearing about the challenges about those remains and how they were left in those frontline states. It's not quite like what you had in the organized graves of Zimbabwe and Zambia. Is it going to be a difficult task? Is it going to be possible to return those outstanding mortal remains?
I think I like that question. It's a very important question. It's not an easy task. It is a very difficult task. Remember that it becomes easier to identify graves where people were buried, in a very normal way. But where you had a number of people dying, sometimes you have got mass graves. It's not an easy task, because even if you then discover that particular mass grave, you still have to then just get all those remains, do analysis, go for DNA testing, and it's not an easy task. So it's very important that we say to the South African public, as government, we are prepared to do the best that we can. But in cases that are impossible, there should be that understanding that in a war situation, in a war zone, you will find some, but you might not find others.
All right, thank you very much. That was Mr. Ndima highlighting that the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and its partners in this all-important project are doing all that they can to ensure that those mortal remains return. Of course, there are some that are in those challenging areas, and while they are trying to find that research in order to assist the families in getting their loved ones, it is a difficult task, and South Africans must be brave and courageous as they wait to see what kind of work can be done in those frontline states that are a bit more challenging in getting those mortal remains back to South Africa. For now, we take a quick ad break.